sessions, and then our long test will be next Wednesday. Take note. 2 sessions for lesson 2 and 2 sessions for lesson 3, and then LT number 2 on Wednesday next year. That will be March 21, 22, 23. Take note of the schedule. Okay? So what is our lesson all about? Okay, can I ask Sophia to read our first objective?
At the end of the lesson, I can define and illustrate angles of elevation and angles of depression.
Okay, thank you. And number letter B, can you read this one, Aliana?
At the end of the lesson, I can solve problems involving angle of elevation and depression.
Okay, angle of elevation and depression. What are these angles? Let's recall first our lesson last week. What is sine 60, class?
Square root over 2.
Okay. How about cos sine 60?
1/2.
What is sine 30? Oh, I only have one student here. What is sine 30?
1/2.
1/2. Tangent 45.
1.
1. Tangent 30. Tangent 30.
Square
Square
root
root
of
of
3.
3 over 3.
Okay, very good. What if you have sine x equals 1? What is our x? What's the value of x here?
30 degrees.
30. Do you know how to get this from the calculator? Yes or no? Do you know how to solve for x using your calculator? Because we will be using doing that one here in our second module. Yes or no? Yes. Given sine x equals 1/2, do you know how to find x using your calculator? No? Sure? No? Okay, you will have that later. If cosine A equals square root of 2 over 2, what is our A? A equals
45 degrees.
45 degrees. How about if our tangent y is equal to 1, y is equal to?
45 degrees.
How about if secant b is equal to 2 at what is our b?
60.
Okay, 60 degrees. Now, how are we going to use it when using your calculator? Get your calculator first. Get your calculator. Done? Okay, if you notice, you have sine, cosine, tangent on top of the keys, right? Right? On top of the keys, you have sine, cos, and tangent. Sa nasibabaw ang mga trig of function. And then, on the calculator, you also have sine inverse 1. Can you see that symbol there? Sine to the power of -1. And then cosine power -1. Tangent power -1. Okay? These are not exponents, class, but these are symbols for inverse function. Again, inverse function. How to find for the angle. So how do you do this? To find for x, okay, are you there with me? The inverse function are second function of your calculator. You get me? The second function, you're going to use the shift key, right? Okay. Press first the shift, and then press the sign, which is the arc sign actually. What do you have there? You have sine power -1, right? And then since you have 1/2, you put that inside a parenthesis. Quantity 1 divided by 2 quantity. and then press the equal sign. What's the answer? Did you get 30 degrees? All of you, how about the others? I have to make sure that you're calculating in the right mode. Did you get 30 degrees? If not, you have to change the mode of your calculator, because there are two types or two kinds of angle measurements. We have degrees and radians. So make sure that your calcu is in the mode of degrees. Am I clear? If you did not get 30 degrees, maybe your mode is in radians or gradient. You have to make sure that the mode of your calc is in degrees. Okay, how about cosine A? How to find A? We have arc cosine quantity, square root of 2 divided by 2, quantity, then press equal sign. What do you have? You have 45 degrees. Yeah, so you make sure that you put that in quantity, because that will give you syntax error. Now, same with tangent. Anyway, class, we will only be dealing with sine, cosine, and tangent here, because our calculus has only those three functions. Am I clear? Okay. For the second, you have to use 1/2. Pero the reciprocal of second is what? Cosine. So arc cosine 1/2. Because there's no second in our calculator. But anyway, we only be dealing with sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay? So practice that one. And yes, Ian?
Excuse me, Chair. Unsa na siya sign ang arc, Chair?
Inverse sine. Arc means inverse.
Ay,
Sine power -1. We call it as arc sine or inverse sine. There are two ways of calling that term. Arc sine or inverse sine. They mean the same thing. Okay? You get me, Ian? When I say arc sine, the same as naming it as inverse sine. Get
Alright,
that?
Chair. Yes, Chair.
Okay. Because in this module, we will not only be solving for the missing side, but also for the missing angles using our SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so our lesson is all about angles of elevation and depression. Let's watch muna this video. I have posted this one in your module, but let's watch this together. Now I have to stop presenting. So you have an idea what is an angle of elevation on depression. Wow.
Introduction to angles of elevation and depression. Every day, we look at different things around us. We look up to see things above us. We look down to see things below us. Angles are formed when we look up or down, and these angles are called angle of elevation and angle of depression. First, let's follow Dylan around the park to see the different angles of elevation and depression. Dylan looks up at the bird on the tree. When he looks up, there is an angle formed. Let's find out where this angle is. Remember, Dylan was looking straight like this just now. Then he looked up at the bird. There is an angle here. We say this is the angle of elevation. Elevate means to lift up. With this angle of elevation of the bird from Dylan, he takes a close shot of the bird. Next, Dylan now needs to locate the crocodile farm. He sees a signboard and he tilts his head. Again, there is an angle of elevation of the signboard from Dylan's eyes. Remember, Dylan was looking straight like this just now. Then he looked up at the signboard. There is an angle here. This is the angle of elevation. Dylan cannot see the words clearly. He walks nearer to the signboard. The angle of elevation of the signboard from Dylan increases as he walks nearer to the signboard. There it is. The crocodile farm is over there. He walks to the crocodile farm. At the farm, he sees the crocodile and he looks down at it. When he looks down, there is an angle formed. Let's find out where this angle is. Remember, Dylan was looking straight like this just now. Then he looked down at the crocodile. There is an angle here. This is the angle of depression. Depress means downwards. With this angle of depression of the crocodile from Dylan, he takes a picture of it. He walks a few steps on the platform and sees a mud skipper opening its mouth. That is a rare sight. He tilts his head down to capture the picture. Again, there is an angle of depression of the mud skipper from him. This angle is larger than the angle of depression of the crocodile from Dylan. Because the mud skipper is nearer to Dylan, he took a picture of it. Now that we have seen angles of elevation and depression like these, do you notice any similarities in them? Notice that both angles of elevation and depression have a horizontal line. Notice there is also a line touching the horizontal. It is this line that connects the object from the observer's eye. It's called the line of sight. Thus, an angle of elevation or an angle of depression is between a horizontal and the line of sight. The angles are also at the reference point, and the word from is important to determine the reference point. Adding on, is there any relationship between these two angles? Let's continue following Dylan to find out. Dylan sees a squirrel on the tree. There is an angle of elevation of the squirrel from him here. Let's draw the horizontal and line of sight. Can you identify it? It is here. Interestingly, the squirrel looks back at Dylan. There is an angle of depression of Dylan from the squirrel. Let's draw the horizontal and line of sight. Can you see it? It is here. Since both horizontals are parallel and are cut by the same line, these two angles are equal. Dylan takes a picture of the squirrel and walks on. All in all, when we look up, an angle of elevation of the object from us is formed. Specifically, angle of elevation is the angle between the horizontal and line of sight. When we look down, an angle of depression of the object from us is formed. And an angle of depression is the angle between the horizontal and the line of sight too.
Okay. Are you able to follow, class? Okay, so there are two types of angles that we are going to use in our work. Solutions of right triangles, the angle of depression and angle of elevation. We have here. So take note, it is the angle between the horizontal line and the line of sight. So what is an angle of elevation? It is the angle between a horizontal line from the observer. The word from is very important. From the observer to an object that is above the horizontal line. So it is the angle between the horizon and the line of sight. If the object is above the horizon, that is an angle of elevation. And take note, class, there is the word from and to. These two words are very important because you have to know where is the reference point of that angle of elevation. And the angle of depression is the angle between the horizontal line and the observer and the line of sight is one to an object that is below the horizontal line. So the object here is below the horizontal line. The angle 4 is called the angle of depression. You follow? Okay. And then if you are going to draw the horizon, here we have your angle of depression from the boy to the boat. That is angle of depression because the boy is at the top and the boat is below the horizon. You have the angle of depression. And then from the girl to the boy, you have the boy is above the horizon. So this is angle of elevation. The horizontal lines are parallel to each other, right? So if you notice, the two angles are the same.
Sure. Excuse me, sure.
Mhm.
Kanang ga-present ba ka, sure?
Ay, for a while. Ako naka-present. Sorry. I forgot to present. Mhm. There you are. This is our definition, right? And then you have here, the angle of depression and elevation are the same. If you are using the same figure, okay? Now, the reference point is very important. And where are you looking at? Okay? Did you understand, class? Okay. So these are the two important angles that we'll be using in lesson number 2. Yes, Miles?
Ay, sure, later, sure, pwede magbalik sa slides na naman, sure. Ang wala na
Ha?
present. But later, sure, pwede later, sure, kay ibalik.
What?
Magbalik atong slides na wala na present din.
Kanira siya. Kanira.
Thank you.
1. Kanira. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Kanila so far.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us now apply those words to a problem. These are problems from your book. Please listen. Because I want to emphasize here the word from and to. Okay? So here we have from a point 17 meters away from a tree. So where is that point? It is away from the tree, from a point. So you're going to locate a point away from the tree that is 17 meters. That will be your point. Okay? So that point is away from the tree. From a point, so from that point, the angle of elevation, this angle to the top of the tree is 38 degrees. That would mean that from here, you are going to look at the top of the tree. From this point, so this is your line of sight. Your eye is here. So your line of sight is the yellow line. Do you follow? So from that point, 17 meters away from the tree, the angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 38 degrees. How high is the tree? The tree, how high? Now we are going to draw also an imaginary vertical line on the tree. Okay, for us to draw our right triangle. That line should be perpendicular to the ground. Okay, we have to assume that the tree is very straight. Okay, so always draw a line perpendicular to the ground. Solution. So we are going to denote that the x is the height of the tree. You have to represent your solution with a variable. Now, how are we going to solve for x?
Kung sine
You-
x is equal to 30.
Only using the 38 degrees at 17. How to find for x? Now recall your SOHCAHTOA. Okay, look at the information on the screen. We have the 38 degrees, the 17 meters, and the unknown is x. If you notice, our SOHCAHTOA has only 3 values. The angle and the opposite or hypotenuse, adjacent or hypotenuse, O or A or O. Okay. So what do you think is that? Decide what trigo ratio is applicable in the figure. Is it sine, cosine, tangent? Relating that side. Okay, look at the angle. The angle is here at 8 degrees. X is what? Hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite to 38. It is
Opposite.
opposite. How about the 17? It is the hypotenuse or adjacent?
Adjacent.
Adjacent. So what trigo function involves opposite and adjacent?
Tangent.
Tangent. That is how you're going to decide what trigo function you're going to use. Okay? Based on the given information. So we're going to use our tangent theta because our given is the angle and then the adjacent. The unknown is the opposite side. Okay. Here for this module, but we are using theta as our angle. Okay. Now let us now substitute our values. Our theta is 38 degrees. Our opposite side is unknown, right? And our adjacent is x, or 17. So you have here a simple equation. How do you solve for x? What shall we do?
Cross multiply.
Okay, cross multiply, of course, because substitute tangent over 1. Okay, cross multiply, yes. So x equals 17 times tangent of 38 degrees. And then using your calculator, what is our x, everybody? Press your calculator, master your calculator.
13.28.
13.28. Okay, that's your x. Now, this is a word problem. You have to answer in sentence form. What is asked? How high is the tree? So therefore, the answer is the tree is approximately 13.28 high. Meter, not sorry. There should be a unit here, class. 13.28 meters high. Or the tree is 13.28 meters high. By the way, class, this module is more on solving problems. Application now of what we have learned from the previous quarters. Questions? Did you understand? So for this type of problem class, you need to know the point of reference of the angle of elevation of and depression, and then the word from and the to. From to. Is everything clear? Okay. Let's proceed to another problem. Okay, this one. A tree 6 meter tall casts a shadow of 14 meters. Find the angle of elevation of the sun. Of course, now can say sun can have a shadow. Round off your answer to the nearest degree. So here the tree is 6 meters tall and then that's a shadow. Okay, not a shadow, so therefore not a sun somewhere here. Okay, so we are going to find the angle of elevation of the sun from this point. And ang tip sa shadow, of course, alam mag-top sa tree. Okay, minita mag-base sa tip of the shadow. We are going to find for this angle of elevation. The shadow is 14 meters. Okay. So we will let the theta be the angle of elevation of the sun. Okay. Again, look at the given. Using angle theta, what trigo function can we use? Or trigo ratio? Sine,
Tangent.
cosine, tangent. Okay, still tangent because we have opposite over adjacent. So still tangent. So tangent theta is equal to O over A. And our theta is unknown, so tangent theta still is equal to 6 over 14. So how do we solve for theta? Okay, everybody solve for theta. Tama ko siya? How to solve for theta using your calculator? Since the theta is unknown, you're going to use the second function or inverse function. So it will be like this. Theta is equal to the inverse function. Arctangent. If your unknown is theta, you're going to use the second function of tangent in your calculator.
23.2.
23.2. But the question is, round off your answer to the nearest degree, so you should know how to round off your values. 23.2. 0.2. 2 is lesser than 5. So you have to drop 2. So the answer is 23 degrees. And the answer is, okay, stated in sentence form, the angle of elevation of the sun is 23 degrees. Is it difficult? Not so. Yes, Miles?
Sir, pwede mag-ask sir, ang angle of, kwan, kasi, midpoint bitaw niya, sir. Line of sight, sir.
Kaning blue? Yes. What is your question?
Ang line of sight, ang niya, sir.
Kaning kwan. Kaning blue na broken line, dark blue. But we are going to find the angle of elevation of this. Di ba, shadow? Okay, kung na-shadow, diri mo angle. Sa tip sa shadow. From this tip to the top of the tree. Di ba ang shadow na form because of the tree? Okay, so gini ka magsugod sa tip sa shadow. To the top of the tree. Questions? And let's go to the next problem. Okay, this time it is angle of depression of a lamppost to a point on the ground. So therefore, from the lamp of the post to a point on the ground. How long is the light beam? If the lamppost is 17 meters high. By the way, you need to draw the figure if the figure is not given. So we have here the angle of depression. Okay, of course, from the top of the post to a point on the ground is 64 degrees. So your angle here is coming from the top of the lamp post. The angle between the horizon and this light beam. Okay. And you are given that the lamp post is 17 meters high. How long is the light beam? Again, we are dealing with triangles, right? Right triangle. So we need to form our right triangle. Where is our right triangle here? Where is it? Our unknown is this one, the length of the light beam. Now we are going to form our triangle. So where's our triangle here? So we are going to transfer this horizon at the bottom. Okay, parallel na sila, di ba? Horizon. And then since we have learned that this angle is always equal to this angle because of what is that theorem in grade 8? Alternate interior angles are equal, right? It's also equal to 64 degrees, right? 64, 64. Because these two lines are parallel. The horizons are always parallel. So these two angles are said to be alternate interior angle. So they're said to be equal. So we let x be the length of the light beam. Now this side, this is now our triangle. What trigo ratio is applicable? Angle, then 17 meters, and then the x. What is this trigo ratio?
Sine.
Okay, sine of the angle. Very good. Sine theta is what we're going to use. Sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so to shoot those values, we have sine 64 degrees. Angle equals opposite over our unknown x. Now, how do we solve for x here? How to solve for x? Using our property in proportion, we can interchange the means or the extremes, right? Sine 64 is understood to be over 1, right? Class 9H, ba? Pwede sa mga over 1, di ba? So we can interchange that. What is this? The extremes. Okay, so that will be x equals 17 over sine 64 degrees. Using the properties of proportion that we can interchange the extremes or the means. Okay? Now, what is our x? Calculator. 17 divided by 16, sine 64 degrees.
19 check.
2.91.
Okay? 18.91. So the length of the beam is 18.91 meters. It's a difficult class. Kyra? Kyra 9H. Let's make it simple. Okay, please get your book. Let's have a practice solving. Okay, let's turn to page 338. Are you there now? Okay, solve number 7. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sa page minutes.
338. Everybody solve. Practice. I'm going to call anyone for the answer. Just be ready if your name is called.
Chair, unsa ang zero, Chair? Kaya,
Number 7. Number 7, page 338. Okay, get ready because I'll be calling your name. After that, go. Four 35. 435. Okay, done? I still have another class. Done? What's your answer? Be, may I see mo na may. Asa ba siya? Okay. Okay. Give me a number, Miles, from 1 to 20.
15.
15. What is number 15? Where's number 15 in your class? Sure ko, girl na siya. 9H. Kate. Kate, what is your answer?
8 degrees, Chair.
Amat?
68 degrees.
68 degrees is correct. Questions. Did you get that value? All of you, 68 degrees? Who says no? Now, violent reaction? None? Okay. Sure, huh? No reaction, no questions? What, Kate? Kate, what is your trigo ratio that you use?
Tangent akong view.
Okay, tangent of what? Tangent of theta is equal to what?
25/10.
Okay, correct. 25 over 10. So tangent theta is equal to 25 over 10. So theta is equal to arc tangent or inverse tangent of 25 over 10. Okay, next. Let's go to number. By the way, this is what you're going to do in your IPT class. Okay. You are going to make a diorama of a power plant, and then you have to make sure that you are going to arrange the power plants in such a way that you can create a problem, a trigonometric problem out of your figure. Basically, what you will be doing in the math part is you are going to make a problem. Just like this, problem solving. You're going to create a problem and you'll be the one to solve that problem. Okay, using your diagram. Okay, next number 11. Time check. Oh, what time are we going to end? What is our end time? 3:30. It's really 3:35. Okay. It's already time, right? Okay, 3 minutes. Anyway, class. And assignment is number 11. It's almost time. Okay, prepare for a quiz next meeting on angles of elevation and depression. Please study the problems from your book. Answer them using the activities in your module. Okay, for practice. Am I clear? 9H. Okay. Other questions? I cannot see all of you. Mark, questions, Mark? Mark?
None, Chair.
Did you understand? How about Oliana?
None, Chair.
Ian? Ian, are you
None, Chair.
there?
None.
Jade. I cannot see all of you from good. Jade.
Yun, Chair.
None. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure how did you none? I knew actually your LT result is good. Plus LT1. Except for some. Isa, question. None. Gab. Angel. Angel.
None, Chair.
Well, let's pray na. We'll continue next meeting.